Hello friends, Farmer Justin here, back in the Falmouth School Garden hoop house. Today I thought I would talk with you about what to do with your seedlings once you've started them. Many of you have started little baby seeds inside and have teeny tiny little plants right now, which is fantastic, but at what point do we do something with them? Typically, when we're using potting soil that has a lot of compost in it, we have about 30 days or a month before it starts running out of nutrients. So one of the first things you can do with some of the longer-lived plants like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, even things like cabbages and broccoli, many flowers, one of the things we can do is pot them up. So I'm going to show you how I do that today. But before we look at that, first let's take a close-up look at plants and what's going on as the plants come out of the soil. Come check out these tomato plants. So I have here two different trays of tomato seedlings. One of them I started more recently, and this was the video if you saw me doing my seedling starts. You would have seen this tray at the beginning. There's some green zebra. But if we take a look at these little plants, first you can see there's some long skinny leaves that are coming out of tomatoes. Peppers and eggplant are sort of similar, all in the same family. Those are the COTYLEDONS. If we move over to this tray, mostly tomatoes in here. I'll pull out a plant. There we go. We can see the first leaves are the COTYLEDONS, and they're starting to maybe get dark and they'll die off, and then come what are called the true leaves on the tomatoes. So typically with plants, a good time to start potting them up is when they have about 3 true leaves forming. Sometimes packets will say something different. And if we look at this one, there are 3 on there. There's 1, 2, and then a third one right in the middle. A little bit hard to see, but there are 2 or 3. We have some roots there, and I was able to kind of gently pull that up. Typically I don't like to manhandle it so much. When you're handling them, a lot of times it's a good idea you want to handle them very loosely, obviously. You don't want to hurt the stem, that's super important, or any of the true leaves. So if you need to move them around by their leaves, you can hold on to their COTYLEDONS like this, or I gently cup them in my hand. I'm protecting the roots, the stem, and the true leaves. Individual plants at this stage are really pretty delicate. You can see here we've got some little COTYLEDONS and a couple of true leaves. There's a lot of seeds in here. Really, this is too close together when I put this in, but this was old seed, and I thought maybe we'd have a lower germination rate, but it looks like they've done fairly well. So I'll pull out a few of these. You might have a good cluster like this in one of your containers. Maybe if you started in an egg carton or a K-cup or something like that. And that's okay, because now is the time that they're really going to, all of this growth up until the COTYLEDONS, so COTYLEDONS was just from the energy from the seed, but now they need to start competing for resources. And one of the most important ones at this age is going to be the light. So they're going to start growing really tall to compete. So we need to space them out and give them light. And to take them out, I often start with just a plastic knife or maybe a popsicle stick or something like that. And rather than digging straight where the plant is, I'm going to go down to where the soil is and pull out a cluster of plants. Enough to start with. This is a variety called Black Cherry. It's a nice little cherry tomato. Move that out of the way. And here I have a few examples of some pots that you can use. And just to give you an idea of scale, they're 4-inch pots. It's about a 4-inch, it's about a 3-inch. And that's enough to grow the tomato for the rest of the season in terms of how big you have to get it. You could go a little bit smaller. In fact, the trays that I use, oftentimes at the next step, to 50, and that's about a 2-inch square. And that's more than enough to get the tomatoes going. Possibly by the end I have to give them something. I think that if you're going to try and use an egg carton, I think it's just a little bit small, really. Maybe if you want to put it in there for a few weeks, you could put 1 plant in each hole, but otherwise, I think it's just too small. So let's just see what happens. All I'm going to do is put in some soil. I'm not going to pack it in too tightly. And now, to get them separated, rather than if I just peel off one, there's a good chance I'm going to kill it, because the roots are all tangled together down here. So what I do is I take it and I sort of start pulling on it gently until there's a natural break that happens. A lot of times it's right in half. Now I have 3, and so then I can sort of gently tease apart some of these other ones. Okay, once you have your plant, remember trying to handle it by the cotyledons or very gently, maybe by the stem. You can see we have roots there, we don't want to mess those up, our pot. Put some soil in it. And then you want to make a hole. You can either use your finger or your plastic knife or a popsicle stick, make a hole, gently place the plant in. And with tomatoes, we can put them down fairly far, just as long as the growing point, which is right here, is above the soil line. Sometimes plants are really pretty long. Ideally, they're not quite this long. This is called getting leggy. Certain plants, this happens to be a tomatillo plant, related to tomatoes and eggplants and peppers. But those types of plants will actually grow lots of roots out the stem. And if you look closely at them, you'd see that there's lots of little hairs there, and those will become roots. So one thing you can do if they've gotten really tall is to actually put it in kind of deep in the pot. You don't have to have it shallow. Normally you just bury just above the roots. But now I can